Jason Hector.
How's everybody doing? You guys want a little break, take a stretch out a little bit?
Yeah.
A little break? Rock and roll. Okay, rock and roll. Okay. So this particular presentation I created out of a lot of the issues that I was seeing lenders doing, not following guidelines, foreclosing on people when they shouldn't be, things like that. So I created this presentation based on my experiences over the last year, last couple of years dealing with people with loan modifications and short sales, even bank-owned properties when people are trying to buy. So I'm going to share with you some of those. Okay, let's see, wrong direction, here we go. Okay, so,
click down.
Down?
On the side. Yeah. Keep going, there you go.
Okay. Okay, so some of the common reasons for complaints. When you have a complaint, it might be maybe they're not postponing your trustee sale. Maybe the price that they're telling you to market the property is too high, different things like that. What I typically will do for clients is work with the senior management level to get the problem resolved. And if it doesn't get resolved properly, then this is what I'm going to tell you that I do for the clients. We open an escalation or a complaint, either with the bank's regulator or with something called the HAMP Solution Center, which I'm going to talk to you about later. So other examples, not delaying. There's a lot of delays, whether it be in loan modifications, they're not reviewing you in a reasonable amount of time, or in a short sale, maybe the offer, they're not reviewing it. It's taking too long. There's specific timelines that they must follow, and if they don't follow the timelines in the next line there, the MHA Handbook version 3.4, that's the handbook for all the government programs. For HAFA, for the loan modification program, for the unemployment program, principal reduction program, etc. It's all in that handbook. And so when the lenders are not following the guidelines for my clients, I go ahead and open escalations with the HAMP Solution Center or those other acronyms there, OCC, CFPB, FDIC. So by a show of hands, has anybody ever opened a complaint with the HAMP Solution Center? Anybody? Anybody aware of the HAMP Solution Center existing before this? So that's good. I'm glad that that's what I want to see. So I'm glad that I can have this opportunity. If you could just hold questions to the end, we're going to have a panel and we'll all be able to answer all your questions. Just write them down so you don't forget. Okay, so I'll get into those things. HAMP Solution Center. This was created by the U.S. Treasury Department. U.S. Treasury oversees these programs for HAFA and HAMP. And they created this entity because they know that the banks are not following the guidelines. They're not doing what they're supposed to. So U.S. Treasury Department realized they need some kind of enforcement, some kind of center that will take these complaints and resolve them independently with lenders. And so, second line there, it covers the MHA programs, which are those listed below and more. But those are the big ones. The biggest one is the Making Home Affordable Loan Modification Program. The HAFA Short Sale Program is a big one. The unemployment program is, a little bit, they're not doing too many of those. Principal reduction alternative, not so many of those either. Secondly, modification program. There's several different programs. Even the HARP refinance is also, which I already mentioned, under the MHA programs. So HAMP Solution Center is specifically for MHA programs. So you must be under review for a loan modification under the government program or HAFA short sale to be able to use the HAMP Solution Center. But they will forward your complaints if you have a Fannie Mae owned loan or a Freddie Mac owned loan or an FHA loan or a VA loan. They will, if you send a complaint to HAMP Solution Center, they will forward it to the appropriate escalation center. So that's a big benefit that they have. So some examples. Lender refuses to stop a foreclosure sale date on a borrower while they're being reviewed for a HAMP modification or a HAFA short sale. This is one of the examples I had with GMAC one time. We had had the buyer and seller. They came to be very late in the process. They already had a trustee sale date right around the corner, and they didn't want to postpone. What had happened, they sent their appraiser out there, they valued the property at $425. They were using comparables that were for properties up on the hill, which were close by, but this property was not on the hill. It was down below. And in this case, the buyer and seller agreed on a price of $350, and the lender was saying, no, if you don't get $425, we're going to foreclose on you, you're done. And I went ahead and opened the complaint with the HAMP Solution Center, because that's not the way it works. As Liliana mentioned, there is a resolution process when you want to dispute the appraisal. There's a process that you go through. So they can't just kick you to the curb and say, we're throwing you out of your home because you didn't get a good enough offer. It doesn't work like that. We're real estate professionals. What we do is we go in and we order our own appraisal. Okay? And if the appraisal shows that the value of $350 is correct, then we dispute that value. And they did have to postpone to allow time for that appraisal to be done. And actually they accepted the $350 because the $350 value was the true market value of the property. The property was not in great shape. There a lot of times in Texas, they don't know the values. They don't know how, one property can be on the other side of the street and it's worth, 50 or 75,000 less. They don't get it. So our job as real estate people is to communicate that. So if nobody knows about the HAMP Solution Center, it doesn't do anybody any good because that person would have been foreclosed on, short sale would have fallen through, the buyer would have never got the property. So that's just one example of how the HAMP Solution Center can help. And this was a HAFA short sale, so they did get the relocation money, etc. Other things that lenders do, which they shouldn't be, instructing the borrower to miss a payment, this is very common, they claim that they never got the documents. Okay, so that's why it's important to work with somebody who knows how to deal with lenders, because when you send something to a lender, you need a fax confirmation. Okay, when I send something to a lender, I get a fax confirmation back, so I know what was sent, it's documented, and then when they say they never got it, I have evidence, so I can go ahead and open the complaint with the HAMP Solution Center or with the bank's regulator and send the documentation that the tax returns were sent. They always say they never get it. Okay, so you put their feet to the fire. Next thing, they advise the borrower to intentionally misrepresent their personal information. So, this is fraud. They cannot coach you. Not much to say there. The next one is lender says they don't qualify, but they have reason to believe the borrower is eligible. I'm not going to get into the details of the loan modification, qualify, who doesn't qualify, but there is a tool. It's called checkmynpv.com, which is where people can put in their financial information, and this is the calculation the lenders are using when they're trying to figure out if it's in their best interest. Remember, Bailey mentioned that they're only going to do modifications if it's in their best interest financially. Well, they use that check.
Check what?
Check my NPV. That's Nancy Paul V. It's net present value. It stands for. Checkmynpv.com. That's what the lenders are using to see if it's in their best interest to modify these loans. If you get a positive value on that, then it's telling the lender it is in their best interest to do the modification. Homeowners can do these calculations on their own, or professionals like myself, and so if they deny you for a negative NPV, then you can figure out, well, what figures are you guys using, and you can dispute it in that way. It gets a little complicated, so I don't want to get too heavy into that. That's more problems that I have to deal with. So this is the HAMP Solution Center. The way that you contact it, I think on the second to last page or so, there's a. Ari, can you pass me my packet? There's a spreadsheet. Yeah. I created a spreadsheet for everybody to take home, and should have made it a little bigger, but the contact information is all here. So HAMP Solution Center is the first one. That's my favorite one. I love the HAMP Solution Center. They're in Texas, so they're real friendly and nice to work with, very competent. But you start to open an escalation with the HAMP Solution Center. That is something that I will typically do for my clients, but homeowners can do that themselves by going to the HMP admin site, resources tab, trusted advisors, and then case escalations tab. And so there's a case submission form that you fill out and an authorization form. Now, if you're the homeowner, you don't need that, but for me, I would need an authorization form. And then you want to include all supporting documentation relating to the complaint, specifically. So, for example, I had, this year, one of the escalations that I had to open, they weren't accepting the letter from the bank because it was on the bank's letterhead, which is ridiculous because the bank always issues that particular letter on the bank's letterhead. Well, I had to open a complaint, and the documentation that I sent was the corresponding emails where they're not accepting it, and then I sent them the document so they could review it. I opened the escalation, and, you know, we were able to work it out. I had to redo the document, send it to the bank, make it look, you know, without the letterhead, make everybody happy. But nonetheless, that's how you open a complaint with the HAMP Solution Center. So once again, that's only for if you're having problems with your loan modification under the program, the government program, or a HAFA short sale, HARP refinance. They're saying you're not eligible for a program, but you feel you are eligible. Those types of issues. The fax number is there, and the email is there. So I use the email. We have a thing, it's called Mongo Fax, where we're able to fax documents and get a PDF file. And I like that because when I send it, I have a hard copy of the PDF file there. And that's proof in an email format that the documents were submitted. And when you submit to a lender, you always want to have proof. Next thing, okay, so when things get pretty nasty, you have to file a complaint against the lender directly with their regulator. So the first step is to visit helpwithmybank.gov. That's a government-based website that's set up. And you have to look up and find out who your lender's regulators are. The big ones, JP Morgan Chase, B of A, their regulator is the OCC. So for the most part. But you can go on that helpwithmybank.gov, and on the right side it'll say file a complaint, and there'll be a place to search where you can see who your bank's regulator is. But typically the big commercial banks, it's going to be the OCC. Right below the OCC, the CFPB is the newly created department the Obama administration created under the Dodd-Frank Act. This is a more consumer-driven website, and it'll get you to the same goal. So this is more consumer-friendly. The OCC site is more geared towards people like myself, but either one will work. And it's a similar situation. You're going to submit the complaint form online or print it out and fax it. And you want to give all the facts and what you would want the resolution to be. So like if it's for a postponement, then you would put, you know, we just request that the postponement be granted to allow time for, you know, the short sale to be reviewed or the modification reviewed or to appeal the value, as an example. The CFPB site is the consumerfinance.gov, and there's a lot of complaints you can file for all different things, credit cards, all different things. But you would typically check mortgage, and then it'll take you through the process.